Hands off, Jared Bowen. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the West Ham Network. Anton here, bringing you a little cheeky West Ham daily for you this afternoon. Now, we're in the summer. The end of the Euros is close. England are in the semi-finals. We take on. I have to remember who England take on because the tournament's been so unbelievably boring, to be honest. England take on Netherlands in the semi-final tomorrow evening. Our main man, Jared Bowen, is out there. And to be honest with you, has he deserved to play some more game time out in England with Gareth Southgate? Absolutely, he has. Again, it's one of those ones, though, we're not playing well as a nation, but they are qualifying week in and week out, game in and game out as things stand in the semi-finals. I think we want to see a little bit more va-va-voom from the team. And I think that Jared Bowen's position, if you look at Saka's performances, albeit I thought Saka had a good quarter final compared to the rest of the tournament, has Jared Bowen deserved more minutes? Absolutely, he has. Absolutely, he has. He's shown to many people what he is capable of doing when he did come on the field in the first game for about 20 minutes. He made a big change down that right-hand side, and I think he can definitely offer something to England. I'd like to see him get a little bit more game time in the semi-final. It would be a good thing for him and for the country because he definitely can get at the defence. And, it's been a slow tournament, and I think his pace would definitely work wonders for England. But I'm here to talk to you about Jared Bowen, and not in the England setup, but in the transfer market, because we've been hearing all along for a long time that clubs are very, very interested in bringing Jared Bowen to the club. Spurs apparently took a bit of interest in him. Newcastle, who we'll be talking about in a second, have paid a keen interest in him. And I think when some of the clubs initially inquired, they were quoted a extremely high value for the player. Now, it's easy for me to turn around and say, Jared Bowen's not for sale, but I think every player is for sale. They all have their price. And if something ridiculous comes in, you would be silly not to consider it. But will clubs pay the ridiculous price? And I don't see it. But apparently, according to sources, Newcastle are trying to plot a move this summer for the England international, Jared Bowen, which would have to make them pay over £100 million for the winger. Now, according to sources, apparently Jared Bowen's not interested in a move. I think he wants to give his career at West Ham a good shot. Of course, he signed a long-term contract with us for 7 years at the club. And under this new guidance of Lopetegui and Tim Steidten being the main man in charge, and seeing some of the quality of signings that we've brought in, I kind of feel like, you've won a cup with the club. You're kind of your trajectory is looking quite good. You're wanting to give it a couple of more years at least during this rebuild, and it's easy for me to say on the basis of being a West Ham fan. If big clubs come in for you, it's like, if Real Madrid come in, you're going to stand in the way of the players, all that sort of stuff. And I think there's only certain clubs in the world that can tempt you. But what I will say is Jared Bowen is extremely settled in his personal life and in his professional career. We can all clearly see that. And it's not just because he's with Danny Dyer, and we all know the history of his dad being a West Ham fan, all that sort of stuff. But he seems to have really taken to the setup in East London. I don't think this is a real starter. I think Newcastle will want them, if they've got a target, they will want that player. They're going to generate some income because it looks like they're going to lose Gimieres. It potentially looks like they could lose Isaac as well. And they're going to have to spend some of that money to, try and build up their trajectory in the league and in all the other competitions that they're in. And I think when you look at the game that Jared Bowen played against Newcastle, and you think about players like Anthony Gordon, who's obviously a Newcastle player who plays in the England setup, and you see Jared Bowen, if you go back to that game at St. James's Park, when West Ham should have beat them and Newcastle came out victorious against us, the player that stood out in that game, apart from Mo Kudus, was Jared Bowen. He absolutely tore to shreds anything that Newcastle threw at them. So you can see why clubs would pay a key interest in trying to bring someone like Jared Bowen to the club. He is a quality player. but we are not going to lose Jared Bowen. It looks like he is going to stay, and apparently, if Julian Lopetegui goes into the market and brings in more players, then why would he want to leave? He's part of the big core at West Ham, quality player. He's going to want to advance on his goal scoring records from this season. He's got a great goal scoring record at West Ham now, but you can see him put two and two together and understand why teams are massively interested in bringing the quality that is Jared Bowen to the club. So be prepared to hear regularly throughout the season, throughout the off season, throughout the transfer windows, throughout when the transfer windows close, of clubs paying a key interest in West Ham's best players, because that is the nature of what happens. It's just come at a time when he's signed a 7-year contract. He's really settled in his personal life. He's still getting into the England setup, albeit not starting, which, in my opinion, is questionable, especially if Saka's performances haven't been as good as what he can produce on the park. But the future is bright with Jared Bowen at West Ham. The future is bright at West Ham because hopefully we're going to be into the market. The future is bright because we've got a core and we need to maintain that core and keep that core no matter the money within reason. We are not going to sell Jared Bowen. So for that reason, he's not for sale. For that reason, he's going to stay at West Ham. I wouldn't really worry about it, especially under Newcastle's stresses and financial problems that they've got coming their way. Potentially, they do have to sell, but they will also be able to invest in players at the same time. But Jared Bowen is not going anywhere. Do not worry your little backsides. Anyway, I'll be back later on for the Hammers headlines. Take it easy, and of course, come on, you.